this intersection of technology and meditation can be really full of pitfalls. And I think maybe the two biggest insights, let's go with three. The three biggest insights that I've kind of come into contact with as a result of doing this work for my entire career. Number one is that practices that help regulate attention are more critical than ever, because our world is developing in a way where every brand or political party or corporation or content creator is trying to command your attention all the time. And so it's really easy to just get lost in a sea of distraction in the modern world. The second thing that I've realized is that social media in particular is a very ripe ground for rediscovery of ancient practices of compassion and kindness, so that these are kind of digital tools that we use to connect with each other, and currently they're really aimed at productivity and organization and efficiency, and they're really conceptual. But there's an opportunity to use our technology better to promote like caring for people, caring for each other, caring for ourselves in a more holistic way. And I think the third thing I realize is that, in our society, we're used to ubiquitous technologies, right? Like there's probably like 50 iPhones in this park right now. And so the whole technology ecosystem is designed around like scaling a solution. You get a solution that works, you optimize it and you scale it. You've got Amazon, Airbnb, Uber. These are global brands, right? Like Facebook, even global brands. I think what I realized is that in the intimate space of the mind, given the diversity of our life experience, that model doesn't work for mental health and well-being. That actually we need a diversity of solutions that's as diverse as the people who need them. And so really the kind of aspirational goal or like thesis statement of my work is to support an ecosystem of tools that help people at different walks of life, different stages in their journey, get into that room of awareness and insight and compassion and wellness and well-being. There's three levels of it, right? First, we have to acknowledge that most mainstream technologies are not at all in service of any kind of well-being. In fact, quite the opposite. They are at the expense of our well-being in order to get things like, the things that technology gives us. Satellites guide us to the coffee shop, and, we can make movies on our laptops, and, we're connected with each other all the time. And there's so many benefits, but in some ways it's at the expense of our well-being. And so we have this new area that we need to manage. So let's just acknowledge that's most technology. And so the first thing I'd say to like critics of the mindfulness apps, it's like, I would just like, you're not wrong maybe, but I would maybe redirect your criticism to some of the mainstream technology that's actually hurting our well-being, as opposed to criticizing those who are at least doing their best to support it. And even if they are walking that line between capitalism, maybe they want to make money and support people's well-being, that's still better than just wanting to make money, which is most of our world. And then of course there's the distinction between within the kind of like talking shop in these wellness technologies, there are some technologies that have more integrity than others. There's some organizations that have more integrity than others. But ultimately where I've landed is it's all about if you can serve an audience that really can benefit, and it doesn't have to serve everybody. But if you can find your audience, clarify your audience, and create something that's helpful, I say more power to you, because these technologies are not going away. We can't put them back in Pandora's box. Not everyone can go live on a mountain somewhere and throw their phone in the lake. So we have to find a way to harmonize with, the world we live in, quite frankly. Yeah. I'm a part of countless communities of support online. That's social media too, right? Your Zoom call with your best friends from around the world and your family, that's social media too, right? So one of the patterns I've seen is that the critics of this movement tend to just sort of lump everything in, like, oh, technology is bad. And it's like, well, we're using technology right now, we're using technology all the time. And I like to point out to meditators specifically that their mindfulness techniques, their meditation cushions and their singing bowls and their incense are all technologies too, right? So we have to be a little bit more judicious in what we're talking about here. I think specifically on the social media for compassion, again, there's two layers to this. As human beings, we have these tools and they may not be perfect, but with discipline, we can use them for good. So I encourage anyone to experiment, as I have, with I'm gonna do 20 minutes on Twitter with the explicit goal of supporting people. What does that feel like to just go and like, when I did that last, actually it was on Twitter, I found myself like replying to tweets that had no replies. Because it's sometimes like people on social media are just like screaming into the void and no one's responding and they're like desperate for a little attention. And it's problematic, but at the same time, I can just reply. And so I spent like a good 20 minutes like crafting, like not just writing, but like crafting deeply thoughtful replies to the best of my ability to these people who probably were expecting no response whatsoever. And a bunch of amazing conversations came from that, and I just felt this connection, and I was like, wow, Twitter often just feels like an addictive distraction, but in that 20 minutes, it felt like a meditation practice. It was incredible, right? So that's the first layer. How do we use these technologies? Then the second layer is, as you know, I'm a designer. So how do we get the designers that work at Twitter to create a system where that's more likely and where the negative loops are less likely? And we can get wonky about the field of design. I could talk for a full hour about that, but suffice it to say, as designers, we have incredible responsibility in the modern world. We almost need a Hippocratic oath for designers to say like, oh, I am now in command of thousands, hundreds of thousands, in some cases millions and billions of minds. I can influence a billion minds. Do I have the ethical fortitude to be responsible for my role? And I think you just have to look at the news about big tech companies to know that not a lot of people are taking that responsibility seriously enough. I'm working with Dr. Jesse Fleming, who's in Nebraska. He's in charge of an awareness-based design lab, and we're working together on thinking about like what that would mean to bring that into the education, and he's crafted just an incredible curriculum there. So there are designers who are thinking about this. Like, obviously I'm not alone in realizing these problems. I also think it's true of engineering school. These are the people who actually build the technologies. I don't really know as many ethicists who are working in engineering schools, but the change is happening slowly, right? We're seeing more electric cars on the road. Similarly, we're seeing a little bit more technology, but technology education that takes ethics into consideration, but not enough maybe, or maybe it is enough. I don't know. We're working at it. I mean, I think life and death happening in your phone is maybe a bit extreme, but it's sort of like it has become the arbiter of your wellness. It has become the arbiter of your perspective on the world, the arbiter of your relationships, and in some ways the arbiter of your health. But it's one of those things like cigarettes where it's like maybe 40 years later, you're going to realize that, your sleep had been demolished for decades of your life, and now you're kind of like not okay. It's not going to just be like an immediate thing. So life and death feels extreme, but it certainly is an arbiter of many things we hold dear, and it should be taken as such.